winter 2025 is going to be very different, and we're really going to notice this, I think, as we head into our winter months and months like November, December, maybe even late October. So we're definitely going to have to be watching this closely. So in today's video, I break down what winter 2025 into 2026 could be like. And if we go ahead and start off with things, we are expecting a La Nina weather pattern. Yes, you heard me right. A La Nina. And it could be a very weak La Nina, though. Because our water temperatures here in the Pacific are just right around above average to right at average. So we're looking at, but you can tell here, if we have a weak La Nina, this is what our jet stream would most likely be like. That's our Pacific with our polar jet. And that would lead to wetter conditions over here and wetter conditions across this area with warm and drier conditions. But whenever we're kind of sitting at that like ENSO neutral phase, that is like between La Nina and El Nino. So that could allow for our jet stream to be more how it is in El Nino for our Pacific jet with our polar jet being how it is in La Nina to some extent. And that just kind of leaves these areas where storms can just come out through this area. So this is going to be an interesting winter nonetheless. And here is how our temperatures, this is my map, how I feel our temperatures are going to be. And I do have our area here. You can tell I have well below average all the way to well above average. And just starting down here in the south, I do predict this area to be above average in terms of temperatures, with this area to be slightly above average. If you are in this white area, you are just at average temperatures expected, but this slightly below average area up here in the north, that is exactly how it sounds. Some slightly below average temperatures in December. And here are our December precipitation outlook. And you can tell some of our areas in our slightly below average temperatures are in our above average precipitation. And this could lead to some big time storms here in December with a slightly above average area too. And you can tell here to the south, I do have a well below average area in play with a below average area for precipitation and a slightly below average area. So it's probably going to be pretty hot and dry back here where it could be cold and wet up in portions of the Ohio Valley and into the northern United States. And as we head into January, I do anticipate our cold air to start to push further to the south. And you can tell here as I do have a pretty large below average area for temperatures in January, with a pretty large slightly below average temperature area in January. And I do still have our slightly below average temperature area in the south, along with our above average. I meant slightly above, not below, but slightly above average here and above average here. So we're definitely watching that closely. And with that, I do still think that we are going to see some below average precipitation with some slightly below average in this shade and just below average in this shade. Although this area I do think could be slightly above average in terms of rainfall. And in terms of any type of precipitation across this area in January, I do think it could be slightly above with a area of above average. So we're watching this very closely, and things get interesting as we go into February for sure. As we head into February, I have actually added a few different areas and got rid of some areas. I have added a slightly below average area here in the Pacific Northwest. Now, I do anticipate this area to be above average in temperatures or right around average as we head throughout, I guess you could say, November, December, and January. Before February, we could see some tapering off in those temperatures. I do expect a pretty big area of slightly below average temperatures. Pretty thin margin if you're in it though. And then I do anticipate some pretty below average temperatures across a very large chunk of the United States. And I do actually anticipate here in the northern United States that we are going to see some well below average temperatures as we head into February. And we do actually still have pockets, though, of slightly above average temperatures, mainly back here in Florida and back here in California and Arizona. And with that being said, we could see some big time snowstorms here in the Ohio Valley as we head into February, I think. I do think we're going to be well above average in terms of precipitation. And with our below average temperatures across this area, things could get quite interesting to say the least. And we do actually have a pocket of above average temperatures too, and even a slightly above average precipitation. Pardon me on saying temperatures there, but a pretty big, slightly above average precipitation outlook. With I do still have a slightly below average precipitation outlook back here in some of our southern states. And here's the chance of any winter storms occurring that I have for 6 inches or more of snow. You can tell I have a possible, a likely, and a very likely category. And starting off with our possible, it's going to be possible anywhere in the United States, but the further south you go, the higher the chances of it not happening are. So I do have a pretty big area of just being possible, with the exception here in our higher terrain in California having a likely and very likely area. But if you are in states that really don't see snow, pretty much like central Texas southward, I mean, pretty much if you just draw a line across the United States, you're going to kind of get some areas that are split up between, yeah, this area can see snow, but down here it's not very common. Kind of like southern Florida, chances of you seeing snow are pretty slim to none, and the chance of you even seeing a snowstorm are near zero. I do have a pretty big possible area, or a likely, I should say. I do think we will likely see at least one storm that does dump 6 inches of accumulating snow across this very large area. And I do have a very likely area in effect for our northern states, along within the northeast into portions of the Ohio Valley. So this winter, it's going to get very interesting, I do feel. And here's our severe threat, and since we're not going to be really seeing much in the way of snowfall, I don't think back here, I do think we are going to be seeing some slightly above average temps with above average precipitation. And all that combined, you can see here I have added a likely severe weather area, a pretty big possible area, and obviously there's a very low threat for all of the United States. Just some areas are in higher risks. So if you're in that yellow shade, it's just a very low threat of severe weather occurring throughout the winter months, with it being possible in the orange areas and likely in the red areas. And here's my 2025 to 2026 overall winter forecast. And starting off with our first area, it is a winter battle zone. And here in your winter battle zone area, you can expect multiple snowstorms, I feel, that could have accumulating snow up to even around 8 to 12 inches. Yes, you heard me right. 8 to 12 inches of snow is going to be possible in that winter battle zone area. Also, in that winter battle zone area, you could see some ice storms. Yes, you heard me right. Ice storms are also going to be possible in that winter battle zone area. So make sure you are staying weather aware in that winter battle zone area. And also take everything with a grain of salt, as stuff is going to change in this forecast. The next area I've added to our 2025 and 2026 overall winter forecast areas are warm and dry area. And in our warm and dry area, you can expect to have days that you could even go to the beach. Yes, you heard me right. If you were down there in Texas, you could expect some days that you could possibly even get out to the beach. So make sure you are taking advantage of those days, because there are going to be days that is going to be rainy and it is going to be cold. So just because you are in that warm and dry area, that does not mean that you cannot see storms or a cold day or even snow. The next area on our map is the mild and dry area, and you can tell this takes up most of the western United States and even in that Pacific Northwest. But our mild and dry area is the next area I have added to our map. And in our mild and dry area, it is just how it sounds. You can expect days that it's going to be mild, it's going to be dry, and you're going to be able to go out there and watch that sunset. So just be prepared for that, as it is going to be nice for sure. The next area on our map is the cold and very snowy region. You can tell this takes up most of Montana, back through portions of Idaho, Utah, into portions of New Mexico, Kansas, Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, South, and North Dakota. And this sounds just like it says on the image. Cold and very snowy. You can anticipate to be snowed in a lot and it to be frigid outside. So definitely be watching those temperatures and those wind chills. Make sure you're staying safe. And now this brings us to our next overlay. The Arctic air, frequently with lots of snow. And that really is exactly how it sounds. It is going to be very chilly. You can expect treacherous travel conditions at times. So make sure you have a way to stay safe along with stay warm. And here we have moved on to our next overlay. The chilly but snowy area. You can tell that includes like all of the Northeast, along with portions of the Ohio Valley. And there in that chilly and snowy region, yeah, it's pretty much like those other snowy regions. You could expect to be snowed in some days. Some cold wind chills, but not as cold as some of those areas that are going to have that Arctic wind chills. Potentially as low as -40, but here we could definitely get chilly. It's gonna be snowy. I feel like we're gonna have a lot of nor'easters this year. So just be getting prepared, as there are a lot of cities there that are big populations, like Buffalo, Boston, New York. So just be prepared for some snowy weather in the Northeast. And here on our next overlay, you can tell it is not just highlighting an area. We do have a pink area in here, and I will go over that in a moment. But here's our current area. It is rain, rain, and more rain. Rain, rain, and more rain. Yep, it's exactly how it sounds. It's going to be pretty rainy, it does seem, as we head into our winter months down there in the southeast. So definitely need to be prepared for a pretty wet winter down there. And last but not least, on our overlays, I do have this pink area that indicates frequent severe weather. It is exactly how it sounds. I do think severe weather is going to be quite common across this area, as I just think all of that precipitation along with that Gulf moisture, it's all going to combine, and being completely honest, we definitely could see a severe weather outbreak or two down there. And even in our winter battle zone, we could see a severe weather outbreak, just because that winter battle zone is going to be battling between that cold and dry air, that warm and moist air. It's going to be battling between maybe a big winter storm or maybe a big severe weather event. So we definitely need to keep a very close eye on that, because depending on how that goes, something big could come out. So we just have to watch system by system whether it's going to potentially be a big snowstorm or a big severe weather maker. And like I was saying, severe weather is definitely going to be possible in that pink shaded area, but along with our winter battle zone. So just make sure you have 3 ways to receive alerts, and make sure you have a tornado action plan ready for if and when a warning does get issued. And as you guys notice, I have had to move the camera around a bit just so I could show you some of the maps today. So it was a bit of a different overlay, but nonetheless, it got the job done. And for South Central Alaska WX, here you go. I have my Alaska overall winter map. Cold with snow in our light blue, bitter cold and very snowy in our darker shaded blue. Our dark blue is tons of snow, and this pink is a winter battle zone. You're going to be battling to get out of your house if you're up here. But I put this little note on the side. Let's be honest, it's going to be snowy and cold everywhere in Alaska. So if you're in Alaska, just prepare for snow and freezing cold temperatures. Before I end off this video, I would like to just say this video took quite a long time, I should say. It took about just over a week to a little around a week and a half. So it definitely took some time, all the editing and everything. So those of you that have watched this, thank you guys so much for watching. Keep in mind this is only preliminary winter forecast number 1. We will likely have 2 to 3 as we get closer and we get more data. So just take this with a grain of salt, as things are going to change between now and the final forecast. And keep in mind, this is not exactly how our winter is going to set up. There's going to be different things. And just make sure you are staying weather aware if you are in any of these areas, because just because you're in the mild and dry area doesn't mean you can't see a blizzard. So just make sure you are keeping an eye on the sky. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy today's winter forecast, please consider dropping a like and subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.